their belief system. They rejected when they became, when they passed age of reason, they began a lifetime of rejection of the truth, began living inconsistent with creative purpose. And so if any of this area falls short, then if there's perversion in it, then that child can possibly reject God, decide that they're not going to follow him, but it's still as this child, according to Romans chapter 1 verse 20, it says all men or adults, not children, all men have no excuse. Men and women, they have no excuse. So as this child passes through age of reason, they lose their innocence and they are accused of disbelief, and they their wisdom then is cropped or ceases, and they live simply by their animal natures and like an animal, pretty much, disrespecting God. Our minds are going to fashion ways to do evil, those people. So they're going to live a life of sin. So this is really a critical time here. Parenting is like huge. It's a massive undertaking, and that's why the organization of the corporeal realm by God he fashions that. He fashions the womb, Psalm 139, fashions us there, 16 I think, somewhere around that, 16 to 18, 15 to 18. Okay, so he ties spiritual activity here with his plan for us. Jeremiah 1:5 talks about the fact that this goes on unbeknownst to us, because Jeremiah 1:5 is prior to God's Spirit being in us to enable our soul to be alive, to live. Okay, God makes a plan, has a plan about us, a prophetic plan, and so as we're in the womb, he determines the time and place of our birth. Anybody remember where that is? Time, place, parents. How far we'll travel, all the places in the world that we'll ever go to. All our capacities, our gifts, our talents, everything is all put in. It's Acts chapter 17 talks about that. So God combines, again, staying consistent with his plan. He combines his spiritual intent built into us with corporeal occurrences. This is not coincidence. It is plan tied with divine plan, tied with corporeal creative existence, just like creation has his invisible qualities embedded in it. So all of this is helping us to believe the truth about him, which we have to decide about by age of reason.
So Jim,
yes.
I like Romans 1:21.
Yeah.
They talk about
What's
the
it
heart
say?
being darkened. It says, for even though they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks, but they became futile in their speculations, and their foolish heart was darkened.
Right. What about it?
I just like that. I mean, that just kind of shows you that they knew, but they turned away.
Exactly. And so as a parent, when you know this Romans chapter 1 and there's your child before you, you understand that it's not your job to indoctrinate them with a Christian or some religious belief system. You are working with somebody who has a soul, who has been fashioned and put there in that family with you. God chose this child for you. It's which is why when we were talking about family, and I think it's Luke 12 where we were about the division in the family. There's that division is not without its spiritual correlations, okay? It's not just an argument between, in-laws it and you. It is for real. It is. It has spiritual. There's always spiritual alignment. There are things happening in the spiritual realm that are actually the root of what is being seen and experienced, touched, heard corporally. Those are paired all the time, which is why as we go through life, we should, if our faculties are in place, our spiritual faculties, where we've trained them to use spiritual truth to define spiritual realities, we can apply them to the corporeal realm, families, health, all that. They run it's all purposeful, it's all hooked together, and and they hinge on each other. And so the born again experience is the same thing. You can't be born again unless what corporeal fact is true. You can't be born again unless what? The born again is a spiritual event, but it's linear with the corporeal realm, so you can't be born again unless what? You're born physically. Right? they run in sync. No one can be born again unless they are born physically. You understand that? They run in sync always, the spiritual with the corporeal. You will understand the corporeal and why it is the way it is if you understand the spiritual, which is a higher understanding. It's that dimension is is higher than the physical, but no less important, and they are tied together. But it's so important to understand, make people understand what they are to do with that child. You're setting them free. If the child is living in an innocent state, then the problem bringing the perversion in is in the parent or the whoever's around the child, whoever's their primary influence is bringing the perversion into their life, introducing them to it and assisting them when they have their own disbelief, as they disbelieve that there is ultimate punishment for going against the Creator, who they are capable of recognizing. So, and there is no punishment. Whoever that overseer is, whoever that responsible foster parent or, adopted parent or, natural parent. Okay, so there's quite a lot of spiritual interaction. The realms are constantly are continuously interlocked with each other. When we become born again, we live in the spiritual realm, in God's kingdom, and we answer to Him. The spiritual realm guides our lives, which is what the problem with society is right now, is really the fault of the person for rejecting Christ, but we don't display the spiritual realm and the benefits of salvation to society. We're the hope. We're the ones bringing it. So if society's bad, then something's wrong with the salt, which is us. We're the ones that have the greater responsibility. The word says to the one where more has been given or shown, there is more responsibility. We have more responsibility than a pagan for how society is going along. I know a lot of believers want to be constitutionalists, and they want to harp on that a lot, but the Constitution hooked together by law, just like the marriage by law ties two people together. The Constitution by law ties the unbeliever okay, to a believer. And according to the Word of God, can this work? Is that will this problem be able to be justified, settled? What's the word say about the mixture of believers with unbelievers? What happens? Guys are really quiet today. Is this like, are you with me on this? It feels weird. Are you guys with me on this? Are you, anybody out there?
I'm here.
We're with you.
Okay. You understand the question? The problem with the Constitution that by law binds together believers with unbelievers. Is that how will that pan out? How is this country supposed to function? You understand the problem?
Is it the believer's responsibilities?
Well, if when you marry, okay, who are you supposed to marry?
A fellow Christian, somebody.
Okay, all right. And if you don't, you're unequally yoked, right?
Right.
There's going to be problems, definitely.
There are.
Okay, well, we yoked ourselves with unbelievers in a constitution under common law. Same laws apply to both of us. How is that supposed to work?
Isn't there something that says about the unbelieving spouse sanctifies the believing spouse?
Yeah, Paul talks about the fact that you have the right, if you become born again after you're married and your spouse does not, you have the right under this principle to leave them. You can leave the marriage with justification. You can leave it. But the problem, Paul says, is the person closest to that unbeliever has the greatest opportunity for their salvation, to live consistent with God, and God see them. I mean, the person sees God in their life and possibly will lead to their salvation.
But not necessarily.
Exactly. Well, of course not. Now, there's a problem with children who are born in that situation, because God says that the children do not carry, there's no curse on them. They're free of the problem of having one of the parents be an unbeliever. They won't suffer from being raised in an unbelieving family because one of the members believes. God, everywhere you look in the Word, wherever there is a corporeal situation, there is a spiritual laws and rules and truths that manage all of that. Okay? The question is, once we got ourselves into this situation, how is this supposed to work? that we're under the same laws. Do you understand why we're having so much trouble now with this country? It is definitely struggling to survive. Who has changed? Has the salt lost its saltiness, and so the country is going down? You know, are unbelievers more more consistently living their unbelief?
I think it's starting to turn around a little bit.
It's turning around. What does that mean?
I mean, I just see more people professing their faith and than I have before, like on Facebook, and I just think that because the country is struggling so much, maybe that's pushing people more in their faith.
Okay. Have you qualified that with the Word? Have you gone to the Word to find out whether or not what you're sensing is spirit truth, spirit consistent with truth, with God?
No. No.
Okay. Well, you have to grab onto that thought and hold it. You cannot live it out because you haven't qualified it. So you have to hold it up to the Word. You have to hold it up to Christ. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, 1 through 6. You hold that up to Christ and you pray and you search the Word for validation. 1 John 4, 1 also. You have to validate that thought. Okay? Because you're not going to be any good living it unless your mind is made up. Do you remember we looked at a verse about making up your mind before you enter into a witnessing event? Remember us looking at that last week? Or 2 weeks ago, sorry. See, make up your mind. Nah.